The classified file in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's hands froze FBI Director James Patterson in his tracks. Director Patterson, why is the FBI conducting warrantless surveillance on millions of Americans' phone conversations? Her question echoed through the congressional chamber, and America's most powerful intelligence agency was about to face the biggest surveillance scandal in its history. Tell us in the comments. Are you watching from your living room during evening news time, at work during your lunch break, or maybe on your phone while commuting? We want to know where our viewers are tuning in from around the country as we dive into this incredible battle between government transparency and national security secrecy. The House Judiciary Committee hearing room buzzed with unusual tension that Tuesday morning in September. What had been scheduled as a routine FBI oversight hearing was about to become one of the most consequential congressional confrontations in decades, though few in attendance realized the historical significance of what they were witnessing. FBI Director James Patterson entered the hearing with his customary confidence, carrying briefing books prepared by teams of FBI lawyers and public affairs specialists. At 59, Patterson had spent his entire career in federal law enforcement, rising through the ranks to become one of the most powerful unelected officials in American government. His silver hair and measured demeanor projected institutional authority, the embodiment of federal law enforcement's professional competence. Patterson's preparation for the hearing had followed standard FBI protocols for congressional testimony. His staff had anticipated questions about terrorism prevention, cybersecurity threats, and organized crime investigations. What they hadn't prepared for was the comprehensive investigation that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had been conducting for months into FBI surveillance practices. AOC's investigation had begun 6 months earlier when Dr. Maria Santos, a civil rights attorney from her district, contacted her office with concerns about suspicious electronic surveillance affecting her clients. Santos represented journalists, activists, and community organizers who had noticed unusual digital footprints suggesting their communications were being monitored without apparent legal justification. Working with constitutional law expert Dr. Jennifer Martinez and digital privacy specialist Thomas Rodriguez, AOC's staff had uncovered evidence suggesting systematic Fourth Amendment violations by federal intelligence agencies. Their investigation revealed a complex web of surveillance programs operating under questionable legal authorities and minimal oversight. The breakthrough came when whistleblower David Chin, a former NSA contractor, provided AOC's office with classified documents detailing a program called Operation Silent Watch. The documents showed that FBI and NSA were conducting mass surveillance of American citizens' electronic communications under broad interpretations of national security authorities that had never been subjected to meaningful congressional review. Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler called the hearing to order promptly at 10 a.m., his opening remarks emphasizing the importance of FBI oversight and constitutional accountability. Ranking Member Jim Jordan used his statement to praise FBI's counterterrorism efforts while noting the need for balanced approaches to security and civil liberties. The early questioning followed predictable patterns, with the Republican members asking about FBI's successes in preventing terrorist attacks and investigating organized crime. Patterson handled these questions expertly, citing statistics about arrests, prosecutions, and threats neutralized through FBI operations. Democratic committee members pressed harder on civil liberties issues and oversight mechanisms. Representative Zoe Lofgren asked about FBI's compliance with privacy regulations. Representative Hank Johnson inquired about warrant requirements for domestic surveillance. Patterson navigated these inquiries skillfully, providing general information while avoiding specifics that might compromise ongoing investigations. Then came AOC's turn. She had been allocated 5 minutes for questioning, but her preparation suggested she intended to use every second strategically. Unlike her colleagues who had focused on general policy questions, AOC opened her folder and consulted specific documents that Patterson's team hadn't anticipated. Director Patterson, I want to discuss FBI surveillance practices under what you call Operation Silent Watch, AOC began, her voice clear and direct. Are you familiar with this program? Patterson's expression remained composed, but experienced observers noticed a slight tightening around his eyes. The program name hadn't appeared in any of his briefing materials, and his staff's glances suggested they were equally unfamiliar with AOC's reference. "Congresswoman, I'd need more specificity about what you're referring to," Patterson replied carefully. "The FBI conducts numerous operations under various authorities, and I want to ensure I'm addressing your concerns accurately." AOC leaned forward, consulting her documents. "Let me be very specific, Director. Operation Silent Watch involves mass collection of American citizens' electronic communications without individual warrants, justified under Section 702 authorities that were never intended for domestic surveillance. Is that accurate?" The question landed like a precision strike. Patterson realized that AOC possessed detailed information about classified programs that should have been known only to a small number of intelligence officials and congressional leadership. His response would need to balance national security concerns with his obligation to provide truthful testimony. "Congresswoman, I cannot discuss specific operational details in an open hearing," Patterson said, falling back on standard deflection protocols. "However, I can assure you that all FBI activities are conducted within existing legal authorities and subject to appropriate oversight." AOC was clearly prepared for this evasion. "Director Patterson, I have here internal FBI documents showing that Operation Silent Watch collected over 847 million electronic communications from American citizens last year alone. These collections occurred without individual warrants and with minimal judicial oversight. How do you justify this massive violation of Fourth Amendment rights?" The hearing room erupted in whispers and shuffling papers as the magnitude of AOC's allegation became clear. Patterson's staff scrambled to review their briefing materials, clearly caught off guard by the specificity and accuracy of her information. "Congresswoman, those numbers require context regarding legal authorities and oversight mechanisms," Patterson responded, his voice less steady than before. "Any collection activities are conducted under authorities provided by Congress and subject to court review." "Director Patterson, let me provide that context," AOC continued, pulling out another document. "These same internal documents show that 99.97% of Operation Silent Watch collections involved American citizens with no connection to foreign intelligence targets. You're conducting mass surveillance on Americans under authorities designed for foreign threats." Patterson's discomfort was now visible to everyone in the room. The precision of AOC's information suggested access to highly classified materials that should have been protected from congressional oversight. His training told him to minimize admissions while avoiding false statements under oath. "Congresswoman, intelligence operations require sophisticated analysis of communication patterns to identify potential threats," Patterson said, attempting to reframe the discussion in national security terms. "Protecting American lives sometimes requires examining communications that might initially appear domestic but have foreign connections." AOC's response demonstrated the thoroughness of her preparation. "Director, these documents show that Operation Silent Watch flagged 2.3 million Americans as persons of interest based on their electronic communications. The list includes journalists, civil rights attorneys, political activists, and members of Congress. Are you telling this committee that 2.3 million Americans pose national security threats?" The accusation that FBI was surveilling members of Congress sent shockwaves through the hearing room. Committee members leaned forward, recognizing that AOC had just accused the FBI of potentially surveilling them and their communications. Patterson's response revealed the full extent of his predicament. "Congresswoman, any suggestion that FBI conducts inappropriate surveillance of congressional members is categorically false. Our operations target legitimate national security threats under proper legal authorities." "Director Patterson, I have here a list of phone numbers that were flagged in Operation Silent Watch databases," AOC said, holding up another document. "These numbers belong to congressional staff members, civil rights organizations, and journalists covering national security issues. How do you explain surveillance of people whose only threat was doing their jobs in American democracy?" The revelation that FBI might be surveilling congressional staff created an immediate crisis atmosphere in the hearing room. Committee members began whispering urgently with their staff, presumably to determine whether their own communications had been compromised. Patterson realized that standard deflection tactics were inadequate against AOC's systematic presentation of classified information. "Congresswoman, I would need to review any specific allegations in a classified setting to provide appropriate responses without compromising ongoing national security operations." AOC's next move demonstrated strategic brilliance. Rather than accepting Patterson's offer to move to classified briefings, she used his evasion to highlight the broader constitutional issues at stake. "Director Patterson, the Fourth Amendment doesn't have a classified exception," she declared, her voice gaining strength. "American citizens have a right to know when their government is surveilling them without warrants. Your refusal to answer these questions in public is exactly why oversight has failed." The exchange continued for AOC's remaining time, with Patterson increasingly unable to provide satisfactory explanations for the surveillance activities AOC documented. Her systematic presentation of evidence had created an impossible situation where Patterson could neither confirm nor deny allegations that appeared to be substantiated by his own agency's internal documents. When Committee Chairman Nadler announced that AOC's time had expired, the political landscape had shifted dramatically. Patterson's credibility had been severely damaged, while AOC had established herself as a formidable oversight presence capable of exposing government misconduct through meticulous preparation and strategic questioning. The immediate aftermath was explosive. News organizations scrambled to analyze the implications of AOC's revelations about mass surveillance programs. Civil liberties organizations praised her oversight while demanding immediate investigations into FBI surveillance practices. Privacy advocates called for congressional hearings and legal challenges to programs that appeared to violate constitutional protections. Conservative commentators struggled to defend surveillance programs that clearly exceeded legal boundaries, while progressive activists hailed AOC's confrontation as a vindication of aggressive congressional oversight. The revelation that FBI might be surveilling members of Congress created bipartisan concerns about separation of powers and democratic accountability. Within 48 hours of the hearing, multiple congressional committees announced investigations into FBI surveillance practices. The House Judiciary Committee voted to subpoena internal FBI documents related to Operation Silent Watch. The Senate Intelligence Committee scheduled classified briefings to review the full scope of domestic surveillance programs. Most significantly, AOC's revelations triggered immediate legal challenges to FBI surveillance authorities. The American Civil Liberties Union filed emergency motions in federal court seeking injunctions against warrantless surveillance programs. Privacy advocates argued that AOC's evidence demonstrated systematic constitutional violations requiring judicial intervention. The intelligence community's response revealed the extent of the crisis AOC had created. FBI issued statements emphasizing their commitment to constitutional compliance while promising reviews of surveillance procedures. NSA released carefully worded denials about targeting American citizens while acknowledging the need for updated oversight mechanisms. Director Patterson found himself in an untenable position. His evasive testimony had created the impression of hiding systematic misconduct, while AOC's evidence suggested that such misconduct was extensive and ongoing. Congressional leaders from both parties demanded detailed explanations and corrective actions. The legal implications quickly escalated beyond political embarrassment. Federal judges began questioning FBI surveillance requests more aggressively, citing concerns raised by AOC's congressional testimony. Several pending national security cases faced delays as defense attorneys argued that evidence might have been obtained through unconstitutional surveillance. AOC's triumph was complete when the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court issued an unprecedented public ruling restricting FBI's surveillance authorities. The court cited congressional testimony revealing systematic overcollection and insufficient constitutional protections as justification for imposing new oversight requirements. The policy changes that followed AOC's confrontation were substantial and lasting. Congress passed the Digital Privacy Protection Act, requiring individual warrants for domestic surveillance and creating new oversight mechanisms for intelligence operations. The legislation included whistleblower protections for intelligence community employees who reported constitutional violations. FBI was forced to implement comprehensive reforms to surveillance programs, including new training requirements, oversight procedures, and constitutional compliance measures. The agency's budget was reduced by 12% with funds redirected to privacy protection and civil liberties programs. Most importantly for AOC's political career, her surveillance state confrontation established her as a serious oversight presence capable of holding powerful institutions accountable through superior preparation and strategic communication. Her ability to expose government misconduct using classified information demonstrated sophisticated understanding of intelligence operations and constitutional law. The broader implications extended far beyond FBI surveillance programs. AOC's success encouraged other progressive politicians to conduct aggressive oversight of intelligence agencies, leading to multiple investigations and reforms across the security establishment. Her demonstration that thorough preparation could overcome institutional resistance inspired a new generation of congressional oversight. For American democracy, AOC's victory over the surveillance state represented a crucial rebalancing of power between intelligence agencies and constitutional accountability. Her willingness to challenge powerful institutions with evidence-based arguments had strengthened democratic oversight and constitutional protections. The long-term impact was transformative for both surveillance policy and congressional oversight. Intelligence agencies learned that aggressive congressional questioning backed by solid evidence could expose and end unconstitutional programs. Members of Congress discovered that thorough investigation and strategic presentation could achieve meaningful policy changes even against powerful institutional resistance. AOC's confrontation with FBI Director Patterson became a case study in effective congressional oversight, demonstrating how individual representatives could use preparation, evidence, and strategic communication to hold government accountable and protect constitutional rights. The lesson was clear. In American democracy, transparency and constitutional accountability could still triumph over government secrecy and institutional power when representatives had the courage and competence to demand answers. AOC had proven that the surveillance state was not beyond democratic control when Congress fulfilled its oversight responsibilities effectively. Her victory represented not just a political triumph, but a constitutional vindication, showing that American democracy retained the capacity to correct governmental overreach and protect individual rights through determined legislative oversight and public accountability. Click subscribe to see more moments when congressional oversight protects constitutional rights against government overreach. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. God bless you and God bless America.